Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, did Rebel build your own Precon deck for you, Professor? You know, ever since starting our new series, Build Your Own Precon, where Tolarian Community College designs its own Precon decks that you can buy for $45 or less, many videos contain many comments asking, did Rebel build that deck for you, Professor? Is this another Rebel deck? Oh, did you have Rebel build this? The answer, of course, obviously is no. Rebel did not build any of those decks. Pro player Jesse Robkin did. So there. That's why it said written by Jesse Robkin on the credits. You should stay for the credits. But you know what? I can build my own decks, all right? It was a joke from an episode of Shuffle Up and Play. I built decks for Tolarian Community College for 8+ years until I started hiring sometimes writers. It's okay to do that. I've built decks. I've done it in the past. 100 videos. I built this deck. 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 I built tons of decks. And I built today's deck as well. On my own, no paid writers, or even EDH rec. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Presenting Thrun Smash, a build-your-own Precon deck that only costs $44.44 and uses the one and only, or perhaps I should say the Thrun and only, Thrun, Breaker of Silence, as its commander. Oh, so you want the professor building decks again, do you? Well, do you want Mono Green Voltron? Because that's how you get Mono Green Voltron. Thrun, Breaker of Silence, is a 5/5 legendary troll for double green and 3 of any color. Thrun cannot be countered. Thrun has trample. Thrun can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control. Thrun can't be the target of non-green abilities from non-green sources your opponents control. As long as it's your turn, Thrun has indestructible. Come on, what can you do against Thrun? Nothing!
In case you weren't aware.
Thrun the last troll can't be countered.
God mode.
All right, good one.
God mode here.
What can you do against
You can't
it?
do anything.
You can't do anything.
Look at
Can't do anything.
Frankly.
I think Birthing Pod shouldn't have been banned, and they should have banned Thrun.
Now that is hard to argue.
Yeah. That is why this deck is loaded with green enchantments and clever equipments to pile onto Thrun, making him even more powerful and even more difficult to deal with. The goal of this deck is to win via commander damage from a souped-up Thrun. Though no, hot soup is not in this deck, funny as a truly souped-up Thrun might be. The deck has many value engine components that can ramp up mana, draw cards, and power Thrun up to victory. Hey, what do you expect from the guy who still plays Brian Stoutarm in 2023? This has quickly become one of my new favorite decks. I jammed it all weekend long at SCG-Con, and it held its own even against some highly tuned and, highly expensive decks. This Build Your Own Precon really doesn't need much in the way of upgrades, though for those who do want to increase the cost to about $100, I'll include an upgrade guide at the end of this video. But first, I have another bit of importance to speak to you about before continuing. Come closer. It's food! Factor food! I can't get enough of this stuff. If you're unfamiliar with Factor, they deliver professionally prepared meals that can be microwaved for 2 minutes. That's Factor, convenience with flavor. Factor has become a staple in the office. My staff and guests are always impressed with the quality of the quick meals. But Professor, surely a microwave couldn't make an amazing meal? Ha! Ha! I say, give it 2 minutes and you'll see that it does. Want to cut back on takeout? Try Factor. Save money over eating out and get the nutrition your body craves. With 34 chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options, there's always something new to try. And here's something I didn't actually know about and I'm happy to share with you. Factor does breakfast. Choose from keto, vegan, and veggie, calorie smart, and protein plus options on the menu each week. Now wait a minute, wait a minute here. I've seen you support HelloFresh, Professor. How can you have 2 food subscriptions? Well, that's not a factor you need to worry about because you can have both. Factor's pretty relaxed and, they are owned by HelloFresh. So head to Factor75.com or just click the link below and use code TolarianCommunity50 to get 50% off, your first Factor box. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Let's start with card draw and Enchantment Synergy. The biggest engines in this deck are all thankfully only a few dollars each. Enchantress's Presence, Verduran Enchantress, Eidolon of Blossoms, itself an enchantment, and Setesian Champion make a full play set of cards that each draw a card whenever we play an enchantment. Setesian Champion even has the advantage of getting bigger with enchantments played, but we'll talk about some of our backup commanders and creatures in a little bit. Getting just one of these in play equals huge value, as the deck is not only loaded with enchantments, but most, as you will see in a moment, are just 1 to 2 mana enchantments, meaning many rounds you'll cast a spell like Rancor, trigger off one or more of these card draw engines, draw another spell like Audacity, only to cast it and draw again. Getting 2 or more of these card draw engines in play will oftentimes be enough to overwhelm and outpace your opponents. Imagine drawing 2 cards off each enchantment cast. Well, you are going to have to pay to cast all those cards you draw, so it's lucky that green is the color of ramp. But instead of ho-hum ramp spells like Rampant Growth, this deck instead includes ramp enchantments to further trigger our card draw and other enchantment synergies. Cards such as Wild Growth, Fertile Ground, and Wolf Willow Haven enchant lands to ramp mana, while Sanctum Weaver, itself an enchantment creature, adds X mana of any color equal to the total number of enchantments you have in play. As we pile enchantments and auras on Thrun, this solemn troll will grow from his not-so-humble 5/5 power toughness, and to even further that, we include Nylea's Colossus, which can double Thrun's power and toughness with each enchantment we cast. Remember, you only need 21 commander damage to knock out an opponent, and Thrun has Trample, all of which means that sometimes just dropping 1 to 2 enchantments on Thrun can be enough to knock someone out of the game in a single swing. And just what are those auras, equipment, and effects that we're running? Or should I say, thrunning? Well, one of the most expensive cards in our deck is Ancestral Mask. This gives enchanted creature +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. And note that this does not even have to be enchantments that we control, any enchantments. That's followed up by Alpha Authority, which says enchanted creature has hexproof and can't be blocked by more than one creature. One of the biggest obstacles in Thrun is just punching through for the win, and Alpha Authority combined with Thrun's trample damage helps us out incredibly. I mentioned that we are running both Audacity and Rancor, but later on when our mana supply is high, cards like Colossification and Prodigious Growth will really let us start having some Thrun. Blanchwood Armor, a favorite of mine, gives +1/+1 for each of our forests, and spoilers, the deck is all forests save just a couple lands like Myriad Landscape and Rogue's Passage. Hey, we just covered the mana base there. It's forests. Snow-covered forests if you want to be cool, but you just need regular forests. And all those forests are why we run Strata Scythe and Black Blade Reforged, both of which are equipment that provide essentially the same effect. The deck also runs Fire Shrieker. How is Fire Shrieker only pennies? Giving Thrun double strike with even just a few of these Voltron pieces on him? It's just OP when you consider, again, that he has Trample built in. Keen Sense and Sixth Sense are both 1-drop enchantments that get us card draw when we hit. Order of Nylea and Hydra's Growth deal encounters, and in the case of Hydra's Growth, the cumulative doubling of said counters. Boar, Snake, and Spider Umbras not only boost Thrun and give him things like reach and card draw, but best of all, they are totem armor, meaning if Thrun were to somehow die, we'd destroy the aura instead. This just makes Thrun even more difficult to deal with. And I just can't resist running a favorite of mine from my high school days, Lure, which just makes it so that anything that can block our giant indestructible Thrun can do so. Remember, Thrun is indestructible during our turn. This is a card that you'll likely cut for upgrades, which I'll talk about in a moment, but honestly it can just be so fun when opponents have weak little utility creatures that they'd rather not block with. And casting Lure on a giant out-of-control commander has indeed been a lot of fun. Or rather, should I say, a lot of Thrun. But we don't just use enchantments to suit up Thrun. They can provide us great utilities as well. In Search of Greatness is another card I cannot believe is so cheap. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with mana value equal to 1 plus the highest mana value among other permanents you control without paying its mana cost. Remember, auras are indeed permanents. They are the only type of permanent card that requires a target to be cast, but they do indeed work with Search of Greatness. In the event that you do not cast a permanent spell from your hand, you simply scry 1. Love this card. Abundance ensures we never draw a land when we need a non-land card again, and vice versa. And as if we were not already drawing cards left and right, Colossal Majesty adds even more card draw to the mix. While Kenrith's transformation lets us OHKO just about anything that we don't like, all while getting us enchantment triggers and adding to our count for things like Ancestral Mask. What about utility spells? Sometimes our hard-to-destroy creatures aren't the targets of spells or abilities, but the auras and equipment on them are. There's nothing more disappointing than our opponents knocking a Colossification off of our Thrun, and that's where Silkguard comes in, protecting both our creatures and our many auras and equipment. I'm starting to sound like a broken record at this point, but I'm shocked that this card is under $1. Try as we might, key enchantments do sometimes hit the graveyard, and that's why Rophilos's Gift is there to bring them back. Sometimes bringing a lot of them back since we often have a grip full of green. Primal Bellow is a sneaky way to pump up Thrun for each force we control. It can also be used on an opponent's creature for political deals, or just in the rare time someone other than you is the archenemy of the table. Removal of creatures, artifacts, and enchantments can be handled with classics like Krosan Grip, as well as spells such as Ancient Animus and Primal Might via creature-to-creature fights. And best of all, if our opponents build up any walls or armies of creatures that can block Thrun and stop us from getting that commander damage KO, Indomitable Might and Ram Through both let us force our way to victory. When playing, try and get one of your enchantment card draw or other enchantment synergy spells online before piling too many auras on Thrun. The 3 greatest words in Magic are, and have always been, draw a card. And this is often how you outpace your opponents and keep a grip full of answers. And keep mana open for those answers, especially your protection spells. Once your opponents see what you are doing with Thrun, they will take any opportunity to pick him off if possible. As such, Thrun may end up going back to the command zone many times, so many in fact that bringing him back out may become prohibitively expensive. If this happens, don't worry, there are other creatures in this deck upon which to stack our auras and equipment. Any good Voltron deck has a backup commander, and Thrun Smash has an amazing backup commander. It's Thrun! That's right, our backup commander in Thrun is also Thrun. Thrun the Last Troll. Thrun the Last Troll can't be countered. Thrun has hexproof, and for 1 and a green, regenerate Thrun the Last Troll. Which of these 2 Thruns really is the better Thrun? Get into an argument in the comments section so that this video will perform better. Best of all, if you think Thrun the Last Troll does make for a better commander, then just run that Thrun and put the other in the 99. Either way, it's still Thrun Smash. We also run Bellowing Tangleworm, a favorite of mine from way back that gives our green creatures Intimidate. Tanuki Transplanter can actually equip itself or be equipped, and either way helps us get more mana. Scavenging Ooze, a card once with a huge price tag, is now just pennies, and here serves mostly a utility purpose for taking care of problems in our opponent's graveyards. So what if you do want to spend a little bit more money and upgrade this deck? An upgrade I love is adding Greater Good. Luckily, still not too expensive thanks to its reprinting in the Forgotten Realms commander decks. Greater Good lets us sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to that creature's power, though we do have to discard 3 cards. Nonetheless, having this in play means if your Mega Thrun is about to be removed, you can draw a huge bevy of cards to let you rebuild fast. And that brings us to our next upgrades, Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower, which are pretty important considering how much card draw you get in this deck. Even without greater good in play, having no maximum hand size is important. Bear Umbra is a whopping $7 and change, but worth it when you consider that it adds, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control, giving you a veritable feast of mana, as does Mark of Sakiko, another cool enchantment for adding mana equal to combat damage that we do to a player. Always fun on a turn where in one swing you knock out an opponent with commander damage, and then have 21 or so green mana to play with second main phase. And all that mana is why I like to add Helix Pinnacle. It's an enchantment, it's on flavor, I don't know. Maybe this is just me, the professor, being silly, but I love Helix Pinnacle as a backup win condition, and I hope very much to win with it someday. I love this deck, and best of all, it can be built for the same price as a Precon, all while delivering powerful, fun, and interactive gameplay to your commander group. Best of all, Rebel didn't build this deck for me, and neither did Jesse, or even Bobby Christine, so you can all just shut up about it now. I built it. Me, the professor! But now that I think about it, maybe I should get Rebel and Bobby Christine to build their own build your own Precons, and then I could get them out here with Jesse, and the four of us could sit down and shuffle up and play. Oh, no, that won't work, because I'm playing with this Thrun deck in this Monday's Shuffle Up and Play with Bloody, Alias V, and Small Ant. Dang it, that means I need to build another Build My Own Commander deck, all on my own. In order to do that, I need a card that's big and dumb and stupid, just how I like them. Has March of the Machines had any spoilers yet? Perfect, it's Profin time. Hey, thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video. You know, the easiest way to get food into your belly, hands down, is Factor. Nothing beats the microwave. All hail the microwave. It can also be prepared in the oven if you're feeling fancy. Takes a little longer, but it's also really good. You know, if you're curious about the conveniences that Factor can provide, I'm gonna provide you with 50% off your first box. So head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code TolarianCommunity50. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today, can you speedrun a commander game? We have picked our starting 7.
So far, so good.
Not a soul.
I am Alien. I am playing Raids, Arisen Nightmare.
Well, I'm Bloody, Maelstrom Wanderer.
I'm Small Ant. I'm playing Kethis the Hidden Hand as my commander.
Thrun, because what are you gonna do with Thrun? Nothing.
Maelstrom Wanderer hasn't even hit the board yet.
Wait, that was one cascade?
That was one cascade.
Wait, Judge.
Kamal's Druidic Vow for X being 8.
Pretty measly turn.
Yep.
It's turn 3.
For Grey Merchant of Asphodel, ding, ding, ding.
Wow.
Shall I? Thank you. I gain 4 times 3.
Odds kill me. Evens, I stay alive this turn.